The NASCAR playoff bubble gets a little tighter after Chase Briscoe's Pocono win. Let's recap today's action from the Tricky Triangle. Welcome back to the Breaking Bob channel. Hope y'all are doing well post Pocono edition. And we got a lot to get into today. Another playoff winner today. A pit crew member got hit by a rogue tire, and we had a 2 hour weather delay. So, again, it was a 2 hour weather delay. So let's just jump right into the action. If you're new here, though, hit that subscribe button. Always talking NASCAR on a daily basis here at Breaking Bob, where Chase Briscoe, the latest winner in the NASCAR victory lane for the Cup Series this year. The 19 team finally getting into victory lane for the first time since Martin Truex, 2 years ago, I believe it's been. So, a long time due for James Small and that 19 team as they welcome Chase Briscoe over for the first time this year. And Briscoe with a major win on the final run, leading the last 72 laps in stage 3 to capture the Pocono win. A win that really you have to look at, just everything has to go your way for Chase Briscoe today. And it's been a season where he's shown great qualifying speed, but the finishing results haven't been there. But today, luck was on his side one way or another. To get the track position, he had to have Michael McDowell blow a brake rotor in stage 2. He had pitted just a few laps before, got some good track position there, was able to hold on to it. And then on the final pit cycle, he got out to a big lead on Denny Hamlin and Chris Buescher, and the broadcast immediately said, "Ooh, I hope he got all the fuel he needed there." And it was immediate after the next caution that James Small came on the radio and said, "Save, save, save. We did not get enough fuel." And for Chase Briscoe, then that final green flag run, he had to save while holding off Denny Hamlin, the king of Pocono, the all-time winningest winner at Pocono. Winningest winner, you know what I mean. But Chase Briscoe had to really run almost the most disciplined, I think, drive of his life is how they phrased it in the broadcast there. And he was able to, even able to hold off enough to save for the burnout there on the front stretch. It was a major win for Briscoe in the 19 team. Of course, it's Briscoe's first win since joining JGR, like I mentioned just a few seconds ago. And to lock themselves into the playoffs now. 3 of the 4 JGR cars moving forward are going to be in the playoffs. And Ty Gibbs looking at you for that first win now. Great story for Chase Briscoe to finally get that monkey off his back with the new team in JGR. And again, he came into this race, I think it was plus 39 above the playoff bubble. So it really just shifts that bubble, makes it a little bit tighter in the NASCAR world. We'll get into what the repercussions are later, but for Chase Briscoe, again, major for him moving forward. And it was the way he did it, like I said, holding off Denny Hamlin, who I thought probably had the fastest car, and just felt like you couldn't pass today once you got behind the leader one way or another. And credit to Prime's broadcast, they made it so interesting when you could probably look back at like a Kansas race back, I think it was 2020, 2021, when Logano held off Harvick and it was just aero blocking. It's kind of what it felt like today, but still, the Prime broadcast mentioning the fuel strategy and the save, it was just fascinating to watch, but not great that the fastest car, probably Denny Hamlin today, couldn't pass a car trying to fuel save behind him. But this race started with Denny Hamlin aero blocking Chris Buescher for the win in stage 1 for those first few laps, and it ends with Chase Briscoe aero blocking Denny Hamlin for the win there. So as much as this race changed, it didn't really at the same time. Tough to pass, but when you look at the first part of this race, it felt like there was a few cars that stood out. Of course, Denny Hamlin and Chris Buescher were the class of stage 1, but you also had Brad Keselowski kind of hover around Carson Hocevar, and even Chase Elliott looked like he had a car that was a potentially contender there for the first 2 stages. It was fairly straightforward, and then caution started to come through in stage 2 that kind of broke up strategy. It gave Chase Briscoe, of course, that opportunity to kind of get that lucky chance to get some track position. They ended up capitalizing on it. But that was the part of stage 2. I think it was Kyle Busch that really started that with the wreck with SVG Christopher Bell. What a weekend for Kyle Busch, of course. It just felt like if anything could go wrong for him, it did for the 8 team. And I know he finished, I think it was 20th, but coming off of last week with the last place finish at Mexico City, going in the wrong direction on the cut line that's getting tighter and tighter. This is just not what the 8 team needs in this summer stretch. You also saw multiple brake rotors blow, it looked like today. Riley Herbst, Michael McDowell, and then I think Bubba Wallace potentially had one go down as well, though at the end they were a little unsure. But regardless of that, just showed that Pocono really does test these cars one way or another with the long straightaways there, the speeds they get up to. It's similar to Michigan, although except that it's 3, really, you could argue 5 turns at Pocono one way or another. But regardless of that, you saw some brake issues there that kind of broke up the field with some cautions as well. And another major turning point was Brad Keselowski, who was leading when one of those cautions came out. He was right as he was about to pit, stayed in the pit lane right as that pit road closed. Jeremy Bullins told him to stay in there, and It just bit him there. It bit him hard, and he was even going to come out one lap earlier, but Brad said, "No, I can stay out longer." And Jeremy Bone said, "Okay, we'll give you one more lap," and that was just one lap too many. And Brad ended up finishing ninth. It wasn't a complete wash of the day, but when you look at RFK on a whole, all three cars in the top 10, Buescher fourth, Priest eighth, Brad Keselowski ninth. They had the speed. Brad Keselowski was arguably the fastest of those, if potentially Chris Buescher as well. But this was just another race where Brad, now in a must-win situation, is going to look at one of these races like a Pocono when he comes back and doesn't make the playoffs and say, that was the race that we could have circled and said that if something goes different, if we had a break this way or the other, maybe if we had pitted that lap earlier, we could be in the playoffs instead of Chase Briscoe. Some more results, though. Penske with some speed today. Ford Camp all around, it looked like, had some speed today. You had Ryan Blaney P3 lurking right behind Denny Hamlin. If anything had happened to Briscoe and Hamlin, Blaney would have been there to repeat at Pocono. You had his teammate Austin Cindric in ninth. He had some consistent speed all day today in the top 10, top 15. And Josh Berry as well, mostly in the final part of that race, was in the top 10. A 12th place finish for the Wood brothers. It's basically the fourth Penske car. Joe Logano, not as much speed as his teammates today, but for the most part, Penske really was a fast team overall. And another shout out to Legacy Motor Club on these 1.5 mile and longer tracks, these traditional ovals, and I guess you can count Pocono as an oval, even though it's a triangle. Legacy Motor Club, it seems like, has just been a breath of fresh air compared to what their results were last year. John Hunter Nemechek running top 5 most of the second stage today and second part of the race. He finished 6th. And Eric Jones quietly 13th, 12th, 13th today for Eric Jones. Just seems like they're quietly building something over there at Legacy Motor Club. And I know there's rumors about them changing manufacturers potentially down the line, but for right now, with them building a completely scrap book from the Toyota side with no notes from JGR, they're doing it all on their own. It's impressive to see what they've turned around in just a short year, with as bad as it was last year. But I mentioned the playoff bubble, how it got a little bit tighter. It's time to break that down, because now we've got 11 drivers as winners in the NASCAR Cup Series this year. That leaves only 5 open spots currently. Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, and Alex Bowman are those drivers. Bubba Wallace plus 29, Alex Bowman plus 20. Ryan Preece right there at minus 20. AJ Allmendinger minus 59. Eric Jones minus 62. Now Kyle Busch minus 63. Just 2 weeks ago, he was coming in tied for the last spot with Ryan Preece. It's just incredible how 2 bad weeks can really sink yourself there. And this is just currently. You've got Atlanta next week. You've got the Daytona finale, of course, as well as 3 more road courses in the regular season. There's no telling what a guy like AJ Allmendinger, Eric Jones, you could have someone like Todd Gilliland come into an Atlanta or a Daytona and win. It's not out of the question with the way FRM has their super speedway speed. If I'm Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, I think those are the 3 drivers that really should be sweating right now. I think Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott are okay for now, but if you get 2 quick winners, there's no telling what the playoff bubble would be in the next 5-6 weeks. It's going to be fascinating to watch. And Chase Briscoe, again, he was at 39, I believe, plus 39 coming in this week. Now he locks himself in. It just goes to show what the domino effect is when one of these non-playoff winners locks themselves in, what the playoffs look like. So again, Atlanta next week on Saturday night. Keep that in mind. Saturday night race. It'll be on TNT for the first time. I'm excited to see what that'll be looking like. It's a lot of the Amazon broadcast. But before we get out of here, just one more time. It's been overstated, but at the same time, it's because of how good it's been. Amazon Prime's broadcast the last 5 weeks has just been absolutely outstanding. A lot of fans were hesitant. Brad Keselowski talked about it at the post-race, how you're going to a streaming site, a streaming platform that is very untraditional for NASCAR, and they've shown the respect they've given it the pre- and post-race it deserves. They've treated the sport, every race, like it's an event. And I know a lot of it's Amazon, a lot of it's NASCAR's production headquarters in Charlotte. A lot of that has been with the CW as well. You've seen that, but just credit to where credit's due with Amazon, and we're going to miss them. The bar has been set now for sure. TNT, good luck, but also Fox and NBC, traditional media, take something away from Amazon. Of course, you can't do exactly what they do with streaming, but fantastic nonetheless for Amazon. Just want to give them a shout out one more time. But that'll put a bow on Pocono. Of course, if you like what you saw, like this video, subscribe to Breaking Bob for more NASCAR content. It helps me out a ton. We got Atlanta next week, and whatever news that comes through the NASCAR world, of course, through until then. But if you made it this far, I do appreciate it. Of course, like I said, stay tuned for more. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.